everyone to our Global Wellness Day, 12 Hours of Transformation Online Celebrations, presented by Chivasom and Sulau Wellness Resort by Chivasom. This session will be led by Deirdre Gronovo. She is a health and wellness advisor at Sulau Wellness Resort. And today, she will discuss avoiding chronic illness with nutrition. She is a qualified naturopath with extensive experience in some of the world's leading wellness centers in Thailand and South Africa, and holds a degree in complementary health science as well as a degree in naturopathy. In her previous roles, Deirdre was responsible for delivering wellness consultations tailored to guest-specific health goals, conducting diagnostic and integrative treatments, and managing spa and wellness operations, ensuring superior guest experiences. And now it's time to meet Deirdre. Hello, Deirdre.
Hello, Kibelin. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. Welcome to Global Wellness Day. My name is Deirdre. I'm a health and wellness advisor at Sulau Wellness Resort. As mentioned, I'll be discussing avoiding chronic illness with nutrition. And I would like to open with a quote from Thomas Edison. So, the doctor of future will no longer treat the human frame with drugs, but rather cure and prevent disease with nutrition. Today, as we look into chronic illnesses, I would like to touch on the framework of the medicine of the future, which can actually be considered as the medicine of the ancient past. Hippocrates, the forefather of modern medicine as we know it, said it best when he stated, "Let food be thy medicine." And he probably learned this from ancient healing systems such as Chinese medicine and Ayurvedic medicine. These ancient systems of medicine advocated a mind, body, and spirit approach towards medicine that incorporates many different treatment modalities. But really, the foundation can be found in letting food be your medicine and digesting your food. There are lots of quotes and different sayings on how important it is to eat properly and to have a good digestion, and that this is at the core of your health and that everything else is complementary. And it's really based on prevention and treating the root cause. So when we talk about chronic diseases, it is important to define what a chronic illness is. Simply put, a chronic condition is a physical or mental health condition that lasts more than 1 year and causes function restrictions or requires ongoing monitoring or treatment. So it cannot be considered as something like a sprain that comes or goes. We can really isolate this to 3 major lifestyle diseases, and this is heart disease, cancer, and diabetes. Many chronic diseases can be prevented, delayed, or alleviated through simple lifestyle changes. And with this being said, it's interesting to note that many chronic illnesses have a lot more in common, and in many ways they can be considered as the same disease, manifesting and masquerading in different forms as they all share the same underlying mechanism of disease. And this can be seen through chronic inflammation, which is not managed, oxidative stress, which can come from maybe exercising too much, changes in the microbiome, or commonly known as gut flora, and a factor that could influence this is a diet devoid in fermented foods, and also changes in gene expression. And each one of these mechanisms is directly related to what we eat. The key is therefore to identify that prevention is key and empowering people to be their own healers. When addressing chronic illnesses, it is important to identify the contributing factors that increase the risk of developing, but also managing chronic illnesses. And one of the first things that's at the forefront at the development, but also progression of chronic illnesses is lifestyle and behavioral factors. And I'm sure, as you know, under lifestyle and behavioral factors such as poor diet plays a role, smoking, sedentary lifestyle where one is not exercising enough, even factors that impact mental health, and specifically the connection between loneliness, health, and chronic condition has been highlighted. Some studies have actually shown that loneliness has the same effects to that of smoking and obesity. The progression of chronic diseases can also be attributed to medication non-adherence, as many patients end up paying out of pocket. Gender also plays an influence on how chronic disease is viewed and treated, and it is typically seen that men delay seeking professional help in the onset of disease as it is not seen as a manly thing to do. One of the other factors that could play a role in driving chronic illnesses is nutrient deficiencies, and this can either be attributed to malabsorption caused by irritable bowel disease or irritable bowel symptoms, or quite simply a diet which is devoid in nutritious foods. Imbalances in the gut flora, which plays a role in how we digest and absorb nutrients, can also play a role in factors that drive illnesses. Social factors such as socio-economic factors that determines our ability to buy nutritious foods also plays a role, and then personal impact as well. So just to explore this a little bit more, I'd like to look at the role of diet and health and wellness and illness, sorry. So the food you eat can either be the safest and most powerful form of medicine, or it can be the slowest form of poison. And this is a thing which is really fascinating, as Western medicine often deals with symptoms of the problem or treating symptoms once a chronic disease has manifested. Whereas in alternative medicine, that's step number 6, and it goes back to step 1, where we think about prevention, or perhaps if you're on a certain trajectory that it doesn't mean that you're predestined to end up there, but that you can take certain steps with your diet, activity, eliminating toxins, and so on. The focus, therefore, on foods which are in a whole food state, fresh and organic, cannot be further emphasized. And this is not only necessary for health, but that it can really be used as a treatment for very serious illnesses, where we bring the body back into balance and vibrancy and into a state of vitality. And it's important to note that every cell in our body has a shelf life. And what we feed our body in terms of nutrition plays a role in our body's ability to repair and heal itself, and also to combat illnesses where that's concerned. Although food is the most important factor, for some people, however, eating the right foods is not enough and brings back the concept that one size does not fit all. I'm sure you've all heard of the saying, you are not what you eat, but you are what you absorb. And this really gets to the point of digesting your food. And there is a concept in Chinese medicine referred to as the digestive fire. And what it is really talking about is the body's ability to extract the good things from food and to expel the waste product, and to do this smoothly and easily. And when we get ill, this ability starts to weaken, and we end up not feeling fully nourished and able to easily eliminate, holding on to toxins and to waste. So the most foundational thing you can do is to build up your digestive fire. And sometimes when people's digestion is very weak, you need to cook the foods in a vessel outside of the body. Where you put the digestive fire back inside of it. So in essence, you're pre-digesting your food so that your weakened power of digestion can be aided by your cooking method. This is also true for foods which are sprouted or fermented, as these foods are kind of pre-digested and it helps the body to digest it. It's also important to touch on the role of the microbiome and what the microbiome means. So the microbiome, if you think of your body as a factory, the function of a healthy microbiome. If you think of your body as a factory and all the things that needs to happen and all the stuff that has to be done by something or someone, and this something or someone can be our microbes. Our microbes are considered as our worker bees for the factories, and they keep these processes running smoothly, providing essential vitamins that our bodies can't produce on our own. It's also important to note that most of our immune cells are found in our gut. In addition to this, you have a lot of bacteria in your gut as well. You have to feed those bacteria with the right type of food. And these bacteria can be thought of as chemical producing factories. Bacteria plays a role in digesting fiber and turning these fibers into certain types of cells, immune cells, which is involved in preventing autoimmune diseases. And it also makes sure that your immune system doesn't get ramped up so that it starts attacking your own organ system. So when it comes to gut balance, it's not just about eating foods that your constitution can digest and assimilate, but it's also making sure that your gut flora is in place so that it can actually digest, extract, and absorb the nutrients and turn up the immune system so that inflammation can be modulated as well. It's also important to note that with chronic diseases, it's not just diet that plays a role, but also underlying infections which can impact the body's ability to cope with chronic illnesses. If you have an underlying condition such as candidiasis, and this is not controlled, this can actually cause systemic inflammation in the body. And if you have a condition such as Hashimoto thyroiditis or rheumatoid arthritis, this can actually weaken the immune system further and cause further attack on the joints or the thyroid. By treating the candidiasis, it's one way to actually strengthen the immune system and to help increase vibrancy and state of vitality for the body. Nutrient deficiencies also play a big role in the drive of chronic illnesses, and many chronic illnesses are interconnected imbalances of our entire system as a whole. The vitamins, minerals, and nutrients required for healthy function come primarily from the food that we eat. And a diet devoid of nutrient-dense foods can actually initiate the onset of certain illnesses. It's important to note that with certain illnesses, that malabsorption can also impact the body's ability to absorb and become one with nutrients. And if, for example, there is an autoimmune condition where gluten is an intolerance, it's important to remove the allergen so that gut healing can take place. So when a nutritious diet is actually being eaten, that the body can actually absorb that and use it to build up and repair itself. Genetics also plays a very big role in our ability to handle illnesses. And some individuals have genetic factors which place them at a higher risk for developing chronic conditions. Gene expression is heavily influenced by our environment and lifestyle choices. Think about food not just as macronutrients such as proteins, carbohydrates, or fat, but also think of them as information that influences your physiology. Food that has energy value has the ability to give your physiology signals and move the functioning into a better direction. And that's really what happens with gene expression. You're altering things so that when the gene express, it's either promoting a state of health or it's promoting a state of illness. And when you are eating a certain kind of diet, the effect of that can actually change the way that your genes are chemically functioning. And this effect can bring long-term, and in fact can be long-term and can also be inherited. What's great about food as medicine is that the choice to change that trajectory can happen as soon as the next meal. So the best thing how to flip and avoid some of the toxins on, in the food, and even around the food can be counteracted by choosing food for health. And there are studies that show that within 1 week, 90% of pesticide reduces in a family in Sweden who went organic, and within 2 weeks, 100% was out of the system. And what this tells us is that we have a profound ability to change our health, and that the most important thing is to simply choose healthy foods because it will be restorative, not quite overnight, but almost so in a week or two. We see a change in the pattern in our gut microbiome in a matter of days, and this can also be influenced by eating healing foods that can help to bind and remove toxins and replace them with really good things that can have a profound effect. And with regards to the gut microbiome, we can also talk about fermented foods. But the most important singularly thing we can do is to choose whole foods, a plant-based diet that provides the fiber and resistant starch that nourishes the microbes that's already there. And it also feeds the good guys, but does not feed the opportunistic ones that overgrow and cause so many problems. You can give general guidelines about general principles on what to eat, but it's also important to listen to your body and to be honest with yourselves, because our minds can play tricks. And I would also try to say to follow the 80-20 rule, because we also add a lot of stress when we try to eat 100% of the time healthy. And the most important thing is not to give up. Empowerment. So what research has showed us is when people are engaged in their own healthcare, like monitoring our own blood pressure. So what's more involvement than your daily preparation of food? And also if you're wanting to make some changes in your life, a lot of people think that all or nothing, instead of realizing that small steps makes a big difference. And another thing is to plan. Nothing is more empowering than stepping up to the plate and taking charge. The essentials to avoid with chronic illnesses is really just to optimize gut function. Our gut can be considered as the second brain, and it plays a role with how we handle stress, but also how we bounce back from illnesses. And ways that we can enhance digestion is by focusing on foods in its whole food state. When we eat foods in its whole food state, we are actually providing the macronutrients as well as the micronutrients, which provides the growth factors or the nutrients for cells to function functionally, and for healing to take place as well. Chewing your food is also important, as this stimulates the release of secretory enzymes in the mouth, which signals the digestive system to get started. Focusing on probiotic-rich foods is also important, as this helps to pre-digest food. It helps to manufacture certain nutrients which the body cannot make on its own. And it also plays a role in the production of hormones, which plays a role with how we feel, but also in energy production as well. Digestive enzymes, which can be found by consuming apple cider vinegar, for example, with some water with meals. This is one way to provide enzymes, but also probiotics, which helps to digest and assimilate nutrients. Fermented foods can also be considered as another one, where we look at things such as kombucha, kefir, or sauerkraut, which naturally introduces probiotics in the form of food. And then also introducing culinary herbs in the form of spices or herbal teas that we can have before, during, or after a meal. So an example could be if you're suffering from gassiness or you have abdominal cramps, something like fennel tea could be really well to help with bloating. Or if you're having cramps, something like peppermint tea can be really good to soothe the muscles in the digestive system and help ease the cramps that comes with it. Not only is it important to focus on things that optimizes digestion, but also the importance of eating the right food at the right times plays a very big role. And for many of us, when we do find ourselves in situations where we're feeling quite stressed out, we may find that we have a tendency to skip meals, or we have other crutches that we lean onto, such as over caffeine consumption, smoking, drinking too much. And these are all things that actually triggers the stress responses in the body, and it further drives inflammatory markers in the body. So by working on a principle where we try and advocate and say, let's try and have our first meal within an hour upon rising, and trying to eat every 3 to 4 hours to keep our blood sugar level stable. This is one way to minimize the stress response on the digestive system, one way to reduce the impact of cortisol, which may impact hormonal imbalance, and it's also one way just to keep our satiety levels as well. And with eating the right foods at the right times, for chronic illnesses, in particular conditions such as diabetes, it's important to also look at the combination of foods that we're putting together. So for conditions such as diabetes, where sugar metabolism is quite a big problem, having a balance of a protein, carbohydrate, and a fat is one way to slow down the release of sugar into the bloodstream, keep us fuller for longer, and also control the stress hormones. So eating regular meals 3 to 4 times per day is one way to avoid stress, to enhance digestion, and to reduce inflammation in the body. Focusing on antioxidant-rich foods, which actually helps to combat the negative effects of stress, poor digestion, lack of exercise on the body. And this basically helps to reduce the free radicals that naturally gets produced from the cells when we're not eating healthy, when we're over-exercising. And this also just reduces inflammation in the body. And antioxidants rich foods come predominantly from plant-based foods. So this could be our whole grains, our legumes, our nuts and seeds, but also our colorful fruits and vegetables. And in particular, our dark colored fruits and vegetables, such as our leafy greens, our purple and red fruits and veggies, such as berries, red cabbage, red wine in moderation is one way to increase your antioxidant consumption. Green tea can also be considered as an antioxidant. And then last but not least, to focus on foods which help to reduce the inflammatory response in the body. And it's important to note that inflammation is a normal response that happens, and it's actually there to help trigger the repair and protect mode of the body. And in acute inflammation, such as for 4-hour marathon run, acute inflammation normally happens to signal the body that repair work needs to take place. However, in chronic inflammation, such as conditions such as Hashimoto thyroiditis or rheumatoid arthritis, these type of conditions are often driven by food allergies, which triggers inflammation in the gut. And when these allergies are not removed and treated and the gut is not repaired, it can actually drive low-grade inflammation in the body. So by introducing foods which can reduce inflammation in the body, this is also one way we can reduce markers that raises our response for developing illnesses. And we can focus on foods such as whole grain foods once again, our culinary spices such as turmeric. The active ingredient in curcumin has been shown to be very, very good at liver detoxification, reducing inflammation in people with arthritis, and also it's been shown to be quite good for cancer prevention. So eating turmeric on its own probably won't give you the dose that you need for the curcumin, but it could be a gentle way of introducing this, especially if you're having this on a daily basis. But if you do feel that you want to take it a step further, you could always add it in a supplement form. And then in addition to this, also looking at our foods which are high in omega-3 fats are really good for reducing inflammation in the body, and it balances the immune response. So looking at our oily fishes such as tuna, mackerel, or salmon can be really good. And then also minimizing our fruit consumption to not more than 2 fruits per day, as too much sugar in inflammatory conditions can also put flames on the fire and actually exacerbate the condition. So I would say the key word with this would really be balance and moderation. Balance and moderation in the amount of fruits that we have, so 1 to 2 fruits per day. With fruits and vegetables, you can never have enough, at least 3 to 4 servings per day. And then also keeping animal protein to the basic and trying to have some type of legume as a non-meat alternative, which is also a great source of fiber, which also helps with gut flora as well. So that covers it for today. There will be some questions and answers at the end. I look forward to answering.
Thank you, Deirdre, for your interesting workshop. I hope you all enjoy the session. And here are some questions in the chat. Okay, first question, Deirdre. Is the probiotic supplement healthy for the gut, and how to choose?
Probiotic supplements are definitely healthy for the gut. For most individuals, there's actually quite a big challenge to get foods which are high in probiotics, and this is foods such as yogurt, kefir, sauerkraut, kombucha, to mention a few. And by taking a daily probiotic, it's actually one way to ensure that you're getting the probiotics that you can't get in from food. And if you're just taking it for daily health, prevention health, you could look at a supplement that gives you at least 2 strains. So the 2 strains that you want to be looking at is Lactobacillus acidophilus and Bifidobacterium lactis. And you want to be looking at a strain concentration of at least 1 to 2 billions. If there is, however, a chronic condition that you want to treat, then you want to look at a higher dosage, and you want to then look at a supplement that has a higher number of strains. So you'd want to look at something that has about 10 different types of probiotic strains in there, and you'd also want to look at a minimum dosage of 15 billion strains per capsule.
Thank you, Deirdre, for your answer. Next question. Can food allergies impact the body's ability to absorb nutrients?
Definitely. If you have a food allergy, what happens is your body actually triggers the immune system to activate white blood cells, and this white blood cells basically says that this is a foreign invader and that we need to get rid of it. And what happens is when there's an inflammatory response in the body actually says we need to prevent this, or we need to contain the infection and prevent it from spreading, and it causes heat and swelling to prevent further contamination. Unfortunately, with that, when we consume foods that are considered as allergies for a long period of time, and we don't allow our gut to heal from it, what eventually can happen is that we lose loss of function. And when there's loss of function in the small intestine, we are unable to absorb nutrients and become one with it. So then the saying of you are what you eat doesn't apply, because in that regard, your body is not absorbing what you're eating.
Okay, thank you very much. Next question. Is it true that people with chronic illness are at a higher risk of developing a mental illness such as depression?
Definitely. Chronic illnesses, most chronic illnesses find its origin in the gut. And when we are not filling our gut with the right foods to boost our immune system, this can impact the ability for the body to produce certain hormones, which helps us to feel happy and relaxed. And it's of interest to note that most of our serotonin production actually takes place in the gut. So when we have low-grade systemic inflammation taking place on a long-term basis, we actually impact the body's ability to produce serotonin. And when that happens, the brain does not get a signal to bind to serotonin. And this can definitely impact the way we feel and also the way we relate to other people on a day-to-day basis. So yes, to answer your question, chronic illnesses and managed chronic illnesses can definitely have a negative impact on mental health.
Okay, thank you, Deirdre. I do believe we already provided our answer to everyone. So thank you again for all your questions. Thank you again for joining us. We hope you enjoyed the session and have learned some useful tips from today.